Madam Chair. And quite honestly, Director Ahuja, I don't know where to start today. You can't or won't answer our questions, or maybe you're ignoring me right now as I'm speaking to you. You can or won't answer questions about whether or not the federal government funds sex change surgery on kids. Some on the left are calling that gender-affirming care. Quite frankly, it's worse than that. There's no scientific data to support it. And just because someone doesn't agree with chopping off the private parts of a 15-year-old doesn't mean we are bullying children. I find it ridiculous. Do whatever you want to do as an adult, but by God, don't do it to our kids. And I find it offensive that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are calling us bullies because we don't want to chop off the breasts of a 15-year-old girl, and we certainly don't want the federal government funding it. You can or won't answer questions on how many federal employees work from home. You are the director of the Office of Personnel Management. I don't know how. You don't know the answer to this question. You have obfuscated today. You can't even tell us the most basic data about how many federal employees worked from home before COVID, during COVID, and now after COVID. Like, why are you here if you can't even answer our questions? You can answer questions all day long related to DEI, but you hide behind, you won't answer our questions about bargaining agreements. You just hide behind them and won't answer those questions. Do you know what happens when you have a job in the private sector and you don't show up? What happens?
Congresswoman, I don't quite understand the question.
You're the director of the Office of Personnel Management, and you don't know in the private sector, if you don't show up to work, you know what happens? You get fired. Like, how do you oversee federal employees, and you can't even answer the simplest, most basic questions here today. Like, why are you here if you can't answer our questions? Why are you here if you can't or won't answer our questions?
Congresswoman, I am trying my best to...
You're not. You're obfuscating. You're filibustering. You're refusing to answer the most basic of questions that the taxpayers, quite frankly, on both sides of the aisle, deserve to hear. Federal employees are not showing up to work. That is a fact. You're physically here today, but you are not actually showing up to work because you are not answering any of our questions. So I would like to know, my second question, why the director of the Office of Personnel Management doesn't know what's happening with federal employees.
Well, Congresswoman, I do take issue with that characterization. I've shared a lot today on our guidance, our processes, how we're supporting agencies, whether it's telework, remote work, the benefits.
You haven't. Do you think the American taxpayers who sign the front of your paycheck, do you think that they deserve answers?
We serve
Do you think
the
they deserve to know how many
Congresswoman.
people aren't showing up to work? Do the American taxpayers deserve to know that answer?
Well, Congresswoman, our employees show up every day, and
They don't. They absolutely do not. And there's data showing that and supporting that. We've mentioned that data today, and you've ignored it. And in fact, you're not telling the truth. Cybersecurity is very important to this committee. I'm going to move on to another subject. Cybersecurity is very important to this committee. I had a hearing yesterday as a subcommittee chairman of technology and cybersecurity on Oversight. We had a hearing with Dr. Eric Schmidt and others from MIT on AI. Do you know how many of our IT workers in the federal workforce are over the age of 60?
I don't know that exact number, but I know we trend within the cyber IT workforce.
Do you know how many of our federal employees in the IT space and our federal workforce are under the age of 30?
I believe it's 4% or a little less than 4%.
Correct, it's just under 4%. Did you know that there are 4 times as many IT workers over the age of 60 than IT workers under the age of 30?
I do know we swing in a
Yes or
certain
no?
direction.
That wasn't a filibustering question, yes or no? Did you know that?
I knew about the...
Yes or no? Answer the question. It's a simple question. So my last question to you is, what are you doing to reform the hiring process to take on these jobs when all these individuals retire who are over the age of 60?
Thank you for that question. We actually have a robust cyber talent management plan that we are looking to submit to Congress very soon that is going to focus on hiring flexibilities and other efforts across government, similar to what we've done with DoD and DHS. It is about increase in pay, other flexibilities, so we can bring in cyber talent.
Does that include like education as well? Because there are a lot of IT workers that don't need a four-year college degree to do those jobs.
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Does that include education considerations? Like, you don't need a four-year degree to be a computer IT engineer?
No, absolutely. We have a whole effort around skills-based hiring, and the IT cyber community is a perfect example of it. Doesn't matter like where you get your skills, or whether you got a particular degree or education, but actually that you have those skills.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield back.